loosely, but the election board does want to see us reaching more people and thinking, using common sense approaches for some of these existing venues and civic spaces. So I would think we're all for that, but they appreciated that we are wanting to be careful about timing as to not confuse anyone. And then the last thing I wanted to mention before seeing what Kylie and Ralph would like to add, and anyone else too, is that they had previously called for us to submit recommendations by the end of the year, right? That had come up previously in conversation. It didn't come up this last time. If for the reason of this mindful outreach timing plan, we need to propose something different, let's propose something different, but let's get cleared up on what our timing is for our recommendations is my suggestion. It didn't come up this last time. What else am I missing? What would you like?
There's not really much more to add to that. I just know that the election board has basically given it to you guys to decide what you want to do with the empty seats. Do you want to refill them and then have to catch the people up, or do you want to just leave them empty? They said that they would prefer most of them to be filled if we could. If we have 2 that are still open, then we have 2 that are still open. But since we're sitting at 4 right now, I feel it would be best if we did try to fill a couple of those. And then the only other thing that I would really say with the timeline and stuff, I kind of got them a heads up about you guys working on a timeline and creating that. So I think that's why it wasn't brought up. So they're probably wanting to see that in September, to see at least the outline.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Alex is a proxy for somebody. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
But I suggest that we start with her as filling one of the other vacancies, or is it are they very narrow seats that narrowly defined?
Alex, were you wanting to take that spot, or was the emails that we received saying that you did not want the spot?
I mean,
I apologize. Where I'm at is there's slow connection. Could you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, so the spot for Evan, when he resigned from the committee, were you wanting to fill that spot, or is David looking for a replacement?
I still need to talk to David a little bit more about it. I hope to talk to him soon. I'm happy to fill the spot, but I need to see if it will conflict with something else. If it doesn't, then I'm happy to.
On the timeline of when we make our final report, I'm not sure where I got this sense that there's going to be a lot of work whenever they change to vote centers. They being the election board, and so they don't want us to dally. I think they're kind of hoping that we have it wrapped up and ready for it by the end of the year.
Yeah,
Because they would like the year of no elections to be able to
get in all of our equipment and get trained on everything. Make sure we're good to go in 26. And make sure everybody's trained up on it.
So that means to get as much voter input as we can before, I think, October.
Yeah.
And not wait till after November. I don't know about you, but December is not really a month that I want to spend a lot of time reading documents. So
I think
just to say,
would be a good time, especially for the holidays, for us to filter through the feedback we've gotten.
yeah.
When the outreach itself happened, I'm not opposed to what you all are saying. That was my sense from the election board too, same as what you all are saying, that they want this to move faster. And so how do we reconcile that with wanting to hold off for a certain period to avoid voter confusion?
I know that we were still talking about having the public discussions, but not going to the county council meetings or the county commissioner meetings or city council or any of those meetings until after the election. So I would say now still continue doing your public outreach discussions but then going to those bigger meetings that people are already attending after the election and be like, this is what we're looking at. What are your guys' ideas? And then that would be like your information that you're putting in and filling into those spots to finalize your proposal.
Do we have any updates on any of the, whether we want to call it outreach plans or constituency data gathering plans? Do we have any idea about
Well,
timeframe for?
Danny is no longer on the committee and he was doing outreach, so I'll take that over this week and try to set something up in the next few weeks with them and do some of the outreach like William was doing with the, next door neighbor kind of thing and the school PTA and trying to get local people engaged. And then Kylie's working on,
West side, if we're looking at Highland Park Elementary,
and then we need to contact the gentleman.
Highland Park.
Then we need to reach the student organization because we were going to do something on campus.
Yes.
So we need to do that. And then Alana was going to contact the NAACP. So Alana had.
Yeah. I contacted them, but then I thought that I switched it over to Steve because Steve had texted Jim, who was in charge of it, right? And so do I need to go back to Jim again? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Wait, I missed something. You texted me what now?
Okay, so we were like at a meeting and I was like, I emailed Jim and he hadn't gotten back to me. And you're like, I'll text him right now. And then you texted him.
Oh, yeah.
And then he said something like, let us know the details and we will discuss it at our next meeting. And so I was assuming maybe that Steve would follow up with them from there.
I did talk with Jim and explain the situation, and they would welcome a presentation. So I mean, if we were to treat the NAACP meeting like we treated Ellisville, I think we would do fine. And I think people would come to that meeting, either because people who are affiliated with the group or who are of general interest. That would be a good place, another place for us to ask people what they think. I think that it's at this point, it's rather than simply give them materials, we ask them to give us an opportunity to just show up and do the same thing we did in Ellisville. That's my opinion.
Can I have a suggestion of where would be a good place?
Wherever they meet. Yeah.
Okay, so we need to figure out when their meetings are, or did they
Ask them
want
to- We need to ask them to invite us.
Yeah. So, do you want to ask Jim to invite us or give us some dates, or does that work? And then we can have
Yeah.
it figured out.
I'll text them while we're talking.
And then who is the point person for our event we were envisioning at IU?
I'm working with Pace right now for a couple of other things, so I could reach out to them and see when they would think would be a good time for us to come out there. Right now, I'm working on something for in September for National Voter Registration Day. So it would probably be around then, or they might even consider combining it and we do something that same day. As we're looking, for what I'm looking at, we're looking at probably a whole day of it, just to reach as many students as we possibly can. So then later that evening, we could do a meeting like what we did in Ellisville and do the discussion and let it be more of like an open table, them tell us what they think about those centers.
So we have a few meeting dates set coming up. We have August 28th, September 11th, which is ominous, September 25th and October 9th. And so I think we should, I'm happy to do the Ellettsville and propose some of those dates and get responses from Ellettsville, not Ellettsville, from Unionville. Kylie, you don't have a date yet with the.
No, Highland Park, they said that they would, they wanted me to wait a couple of weeks, so I'll reach out to them either Friday or Monday and
Okay.
get a date from them.
Well, if I get a date from, if any of those dates from Unionville, I will let the committee know that they wanted to do a specific date. They have a specific one of those dates.
And then if the NAACP has a date that is out of the state, we can certainly do that, right? We don't have to just be kept to these
No.
dates. And if we added an extra meeting in a month, that would be all right. Is it? I don't know the rules.
Yes,
Right.
that would be fine because once it starts adding into other stuff, the election board said that you guys can hold other meetings or discussions outside of the meeting dates.
Okay.
It's just these meeting dates are set in order for us to have a room like this or to be able to have the Zoom information and Teams. But I can just set up a meeting and then we can put it on Teams, or we can leave it where it's not broadcasted and just have it as public discussions and not have to count it as a meeting.
Okay. So we could use these meetings or make other ones. Okay.
And then we talked about, am I remembering the date correctly, September 17th plus? or
Yeah.
IU.
That's the day that I'm looking at right now is September 17th for that National Voter Registration Day. And that would be when we would probably try to push in the one on campus.
That'd be great.
I think
Because
that's
then it's at least very clearly, it's already an exciting to talk about.
yeah, that's excellent.
And we hopefully have a student be part of facilitating things.
Yes, yeah.
So Alex, do you have September 17th free on your calendar?
One moment.
Not to put you on the spot at all. Sorry.
It's on our brush.
If it's Wednesday in the evening,
no.
then yes, I should be.
Good.
Right?
Yeah,
PDS on it.
Oh, no, 17th is not a Wednesday.
No,
That's
it's
Tuesday.
Tuesday. It's the National Voter Registration Day
Mhm.
event.
so that would be Tuesday. And the public discussions that we've been doing, we're looking at 6 o'clock.
That should work for me.
Okay.
Right? And then if we, I don't know if this is a good idea, this is a brainstorm, but if we're sticking with the 28th as our next meeting, our normal meeting,
Right.
if we think we want to build some time into the agenda, given our push, everyone seems to be in agreement, we got to move forward. So but it makes sense to, and I'm willing to help with this, to get the word out more about this standing meeting to
I think
people
would
to
be-
participate, the public, like, we have a plan to do a mini session, right? If people came. I know that we can do that if no one came, but if people came, you could moderate a discussion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, I like how there was a graphic and connection with the last one. I think we have you to thank for that, right? That was cute.
Yes.
So if we had something like that again, I know that's just a normal meeting, but whether we call it something different or not, I'm happy to help get the word out. I know others have networks more vast than me, but I will help.
Right.
And hopefully inspire others to join along too with publicizing that we'll continuing to get input, including on the 28th.
So just as far as the NAACP goes, like I want to recommend that we make it another stop on our tour.
Yes.
I have email addresses for you to send the PDF to. And, if we get a 2-line email, we can write it after the meeting.
Okay.
And make sure it gets out after. And then we'll see if and when they respond to your email.
Okay.
So we've updated I'm updating the project plan right now with new people taking responsibility for things. So were there any additional things that should be on the project plan? I know that we had several weeks of people looking at it and making changes. And so I know that there are some changes in here that all got accepted and so if there's anything else that you want to add, I'm happy to do that. You can email me or, can talk about it right now if there's anything. But I think hopefully by the end of this week or next, we should have a lot more dates in for our outreach. So we've been making some progress, and I think gonna make some good progress in the next month. But I think at some point we have to have a cutoff point for this and then get to writing and making decisions on what we get. And so if we can do that, if we can get all our feedback in September, then we could start writing in in October, work through, really firm up all the options. Here are the options we'd like to cover, and start working on that and assigning things at that point.
One thing, this is really tricky, but I think it makes sense. Under the recommended development, we have 3 options listed, which I think is fine. At the Ellisville meeting, one of the participants suggested that we should have a minimum of 1 per township. Which
Right.
would be 11,
Right.
so we could change the 10 to 11.
Right.
It's a number.
Which
Right.
township is Burgoon in? Is that a good place to put the poll?
Would be,
Yeah, that's not the only place.
other than Indiana State Forest.
Accurate. Yeah, because.
Under a spreading chestnut.
That reminds me of some of the voting conditions in India. But they get to every voter, I'm not saying that process doesn't have its flaws, but they do get to.
Well, in
A lot more
in Indiana, chickens might not be as fun.
Correct.
One thing I definitely would recommend is we don't have any listening sessions, whatever we're calling them, on the side of the county.
Okay,
Harrisburg would probably be the best location for both the Indian Creek people and Clear Creek. They have a
You
community
mean for a vote center or for a listening?
listening session.
I mean, how much time do we have for listening sessions? Do we have time for one everything? That seems a little much.
Well, it wouldn't be in every precinct. I mean,
Right now, we've been hitting it about like every side of town, and then,
Yeah.
like you said, south side's the only one that we're not right now.
That's all I'm trying to
do
accommodate.
you know anyone there? Do you have contacts?
I can contact the trustee.
Okay, that would be great.
I can do that.
Okay,
Yeah, we would have enough time because we'll have technically 4 in September. 3 options that we could use.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to push for the end of August for 1 in November.
okay, like for the 28th.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Okay, so I'm gonna push for that one.
But anyone could come there. I can
Yep.
still follow my.
Right, anyone.
Yeah.
Getting the word out. It would
Yeah.
be, that would be the venue.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
And then as soon as I hear back on that, which I should hear either tomorrow or Friday or Monday on that, then I'll send you guys the information. I'll probably just go ahead and make the flyer for it.
No, I'm just joking.
Oh, sorry. Just making sure.
Well, I put some edits that Stacy will kindly incorporate later into the outline. And as we're talking, I'm thinking that some of our recommendations, aside from the specific options, will be about what we would like to politely recommend the election board to do next, because we want them to engage people too. Like that doesn't end on December 31st, right? So that I think we can be really specific and pointed about that,
Right.
about city council meetings and these other ideas. And I would like for us to put that in here too.
Yep.
And be really direct about it, because we all know that more workshopping needs to be done, more voter input is needed. We also have always talked about how that doesn't begin and end with us.
Right.
So we can, that's our role and our responsibility to push that on the election board.
One thing I would strongly recommend is the last report from 2011. That was a book.
Mhm.
I really don't truly do not believe people are going to read that.
They're not,
Was it? No.
well, not, no.
And if we can limit it to 2 or 3 pages, I don't see why we couldn't. Because we don't need to plan every detail for the election.
Exactly.
We just need to offer broad suggestions and they fill in the guidelines. Because we can offer detailed plans.
Right.
But it's not up to us to implement them.
No, I agree. And it might stretch to 5 if we really want
Yeah,
to talk.
something reasonable,
But I
but
think,
not-
no, certainly less, than no more,
Right.
like 8 or 10 pages. No, you're explaining.
Because so much of that was explaining in detail what vote centers were, and then all the data from the other that can be available if people
Right.
want it, but I don't necessarily think it needs to be in the
No.
report.
Appendix. We can make an appendix.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you.
All right.
because who wants to write that?
Right.
I do not.
If you don't want to write it, chances are people don't want to read it.
Exactly.
So I had a question before we got started. I was asking Kylie because many of the other counties' reports do include at least a list of places that might be vote centers. And I don't know how much negotiation one does with a place like that, but obviously at least it seemed to me that somebody from the equivalent of our committee had gone to those locations. If they are already polling sites, probably we wouldn't need to do that.
I don't know of any other sites we would want to throw into the mix, because those sites we have been very vetted for ADA compliancy and, being around a good chunk of people. I mean, unless they no longer, I don't know if we'd want to.
Well, it comes back to the input we get too, right? If we're all gonna be listening with interest if people suggest, which I don't know if anyone has yet, but
What struck me, remember when the students were here, somebody said, well, I just figured I could go to any branch of the public library. And so I think it's worth asking the public library, would it be possible to have a vote center? Because downtown library, maybe not, but because of parking. And it's so close to the election operations and so on. But Southwest branch. Ellettsville.
I don't see why we'd need that. We have
Yeah, there's 3 adults
Right.
right now.
or 2 right now. St. John's and
St.
and
John's.
Elevation Church.
Church, yeah.
There was fire station on 46 has sometimes worked as a polling place, but that kind of stopped because that's also going to depend on, they have to shut that down when everybody's out on a run,
Yeah.
and that caused problems. Town hall would be another option.
Yeah, that room. So we have 10 minutes left. Are there other things we want to talk about the proposal and the outline, or are we, I think.
was the team working on the report in addition to Stacy? I don't want you to be on your own.
No, I'm not. I'm going to divide this up. We're going to divide this up in October. We're going to figure out what exactly our options are, because these were just, floated in previous meetings and never really voted on or decided. So we need to really firm these up. And then everybody's going to do a section. Right? We're going to dole it out. And I would like to suggest Ralph as the great editor that she is. Yeah, it's a little difference.
Ilana, you haven't had a chance to say anything, and I know you're not feeling well, but is there anything that you want to chip in on this?
Hey, no, this is great. This is wonderful. Sorry, I'm feeling off, and I'm also taking care of a sick kiddo at the same time. So I'm good, but that all sounds great in terms of it. Yeah, and once we have, if you can send out an updated version, maybe to the committee, or are we just going to keep working kind of in Google Docs in terms of what the final version of the work plan is going to exist in?
Either way, it'll be in Google Docs. I'll update it in Google Docs and it'll be there and available for everyone to look at. But whether we make it completely editable by everyone is yet to be determined, I think.
Okay, yeah, I guess yet to be, however you determine it is totally fine with me. And thanks all for all this work. I think it's really great.
Other new business that we should take up for meetings?
Just wanted to thank Hamid, she's done a great job of she instructed the election board that we didn't want to get out over our skis and we didn't want to start bringing people the idea that when they vote in November, they will have a vote center.
Right.
And because there was like one of those like, let's get moving, and she very graciously, I didn't know why we were quite that fast.
Maybe we just need to say firmly and that this will not be for this election, everything over and over again. Yeah, I know.
Hang around.
And then you'll still have, well, I mean, we still have people show up and you guys, I'm sure this will November, show up to voter registration on 7th Street to vote. Then they get mad when it's not there. Come on, can't you let me vote?
It still happen.
There was a lot, a lot of people saying they wanted more early voting sites. So that was another big thing from the Ellisville meeting. All right, well, if there's no new business and no one else wants to comment, I'm going to propose a motion. We should have a move that we adjourn. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, well, you didn't meet. Oh, you're welcome.
Yes.